And we're back to learning on freecodecamp. We should be in front development library section, and we've arrived here at Redux. 17 lessons. Let's go over this. I'm not going to read it all to you. As always, just do this course yourself, and when you get stuck, just refer to my solutions. We'll start with creating a Redux Store. So this is the entry level where you learn about the basic syntax. You could see it almost as creating a variable, so it's the same way of writing it. Let us make it a const with the name of store. And to create it, we just need the create store method in Redux, but it also takes a reducer, which is given in code line 1. So we'll pass it here using the method. And if I have made any typos, we should already be good. So it has this value of 5, which is stored in state. Everything works. Next up is get state from the Redux Store. So there are more methods in Redux. For example, get state. By the way, here code line 1, 2, 3 is the same that we've written in the last task, but it's a little bit more concise. So again, we've got our store, which is then created as Redux Store, and it uses state with a value of 5. What we need to do here is we'll create our current state variable, and in it we'll just store the state, and to do that we just need store and then get its state. Let's go to define a Redux action. It's an object, so it's the same, you could see it as the same as in JavaScript. It should have a property of type and a value of login, and that should already be it. We can move on to define an action creator. An action object is given here in code line 1. Now we want to define a function of action creator that returns this object when it is called. And you can use the keyword function here as well in Redux. Add the action creator name for the function. We'll use the return keyword, and then we want to return our action object right here in code line 1. Let's go to dispatch an action event. We've got a function login action given, and also store is created. We want to dispatch the store right here. So let's use store.dispatch. And our action creator here is called login action. And that was already it. Let's go to handle an action in the store. What we've got here is a default state object and a reducer function. We've got a store created and there's a login action. You can see here we've got two conditions, so we need an if else, so we can solve this with an if else. Let me just use it right here in our reducer. So if and then else. So the if returns a state object with login set to true. So we need to return login true. And else, here it says otherwise, it returns the const state. So else return state. And here's a semicolon in code line 10. I've missed that. Now let's take care of the condition for our if. And this is our action.type. And if this is equal to login, we want to return true and else return the state. So that should be it. Let's move on. Now we're using a switch statement to handle multiple actions. So in code line 7, we'll add our basic switch outline. We use the action type to compare our cases. And let me check. We have login, logout. So these two types are given right here. For login, we want to return this authenticated set to true. So this was our first case. Second case would be for logout. And here we want to return authenticated false. And finally, we also have a default case. In this case, we'll return the default state. And I believe I'm done here. Let's go to use const for action types. So now we want to first declare login and logout right here. So it works just like in JavaScript. And now instead of using the string values, we can use these declarations. So our variables that we've created here, log in and log out, and we don't need the quotation marks anymore in our switch. And we also don't need it in our login user function. Let us move on to register a store listener. So for now the count is 0. You can see then code line 15, the count is initialized, set to 0. What we want to do here is we want to add 1 to it. So let me declare const add, and it is simply count plus plus to increment it, and then store use add, but we don't want to dispatch it, we want to subscribe. So this is given on the left hand side right here. And if I add it, you can see we now have 1, 2, 3 instead of 3 zeros. So every time it is dispatched, we've got it incremented. Let's move on to combine multiple reducers. So up until now, we've only added 1. But we can just combine them. An example is given right here, so we can just use this as our basic outline. We use the combine reducers method. Let me check what we need here. On the left hand side we've got out and nodes, but we need count and out. So these are our properties. And as values we use out reducer and counter reducer. Don't forget the comma, but then you should be good. Send action data to the store. So first we'll take care of add node text in code line 13. We want to return an action object. Should include a type property and the value is add underscore node. So we need an object, type add node. And it also should have a text property set to node. Let me fix this typo here. But that should cover the add node text. And now we'll take care of the switch statement in the nodes reducer. So this is code line 3. There's the switch in 4. It uses action.type. As a case, we'll use add_node. And we'll return the text property, so action.text. And that should already cover this case. And here you can see the initial state, and afterwards hello is used. So this is code line 26. When we dispatch add node text using hello, hello is then the node, which is our text, and text is then used here as action.text, so hello is returned. Let's go to use middleware to handle asynchronous actions. We need to go to our handle async in code line 7. We want to dispatch the request action here. Let us do that first. So we'll dispatch. And it's the requesting data. Don't forget these parentheses. And after the timeout, we'll receive. So we'll have to dispatch the receive data right here. And that should cover this exercise. Oh, I've missed this one. Obviously, we'll have to add the data right here for our received data. So let me just copy it right here from code line 5. I'll paste it here, and now we should be good. Let us write a counter using Redux. So we've got incrementation, decrementation, and we should have a basic state of 0. For increment and decrement, we'll just change it here. We go to code line 4, set the state to 0. And we'll use action. We read it carefully. What we need are 3 cases then. So I'll use a switch for that. First case is increment, second is decrement, and we also have a default case. For increment, it's +1, for decrement -1, and for default, it's just a state. And we obviously need our action.type right here. So this is what's compared. to find our cases. We can move on to code line 15. This is our incrementation, so the inc action. We'll simply return an object here of type increment. And for our decrement action, so the dec action, it works almost the same, but the type has to be decrement. Finally, in code line 27, we'll have to take care of the Redux store, so redux.createStore. And we'll use our counter reducer right here. And now I've got it all covered. So we can move on to never mutate state. Let's go to code line 15 and we'll return our state. But we have to append a new to-do to this state. So we can, for example, use the concat method. So it concatenates this new to-do, and we'll just have to use action.todo. And we're ready to move on to use the spread operator on arrays. Just as a reminder, these 3 dots, this is the spread operator. So it spreads out the array. We've used that a couple of times in a JavaScript curriculum. So what do we want to do here in the end? In the end we want to return an array. So we call it ARR. Before it I have to declare it. I use these square brackets. We want to use the spread operator. And it's actually the state that we want to spread out. Let me read it once more carefully. And here we want to add a new value. So here's on the left hand side. There's the basic syntax. And our new value is the to-do, so once again we need the action.to-do. Let's remove an item from an array. There are many ways to do this. I'll just use slice. So state once again is our array. We'll use .slice and then we'll concatenate again. For slice we'll use 0 and our action.index. It's going to define the position where we slice it. And for concatenate we'll have to move one position forward. So we use state.slice, but this time it's action.index plus 1. As we're moving one position beyond what we've sliced previously. And the end position is state.length, so the full length of our array. Let's go to copy an object with Object.assign. Basic syntax is given on the left. We'll just return Object.assign. Alright, here we need the square brackets and then two objects. But what are our two objects here in this example? Well, object 1, you can read it right here, is yet again our state. And object 2 would be a new object for actions with type online. And this is stored in our property status. So status online, don't forget the quotation marks, and it's written in lower caps, so let me correct that, online. So this is our second object and we're good here. And we're already through, so it was a little bit of a shorter one. Still took more time than I expected. Next up is React and Redux. I'm going to finish it for next week as always. I hope this video was helpful, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.